Well, as load shedding, stage 2 loading is implemented once again and we battle power challenges. Concerns are being raised about what could be some of the innovative means to bring power to communities around the world who battle with no or low electricity infrastructure. One suggestion is that people simply buy solar panels and pay them off. That means that in some cases, people who provide that financing, or the companies that actually sell the solar panels over time, make, well, quite a lot of money. But poor people can end up in a debt trap. Hizkyas Dufera is a special advisor to the Ethiopian Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy. It's a country that has a lot of experience in this area. Hizkyas, good afternoon to you. Various models are being proposed for this. You, as I understand it, in your country, have had companies that have come and given people solar panels. They're supposed to pay them off over time. What's actually happened?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, we do have off-grid solutions as part of our national electrification program, because extending the grid to remote areas is very expensive. And as part of that, we deploy something called solar home systems. And there are, because of the cost of some of these systems and the economic status of the people that live in these poor rural areas, a lot of models have been tried in the past. And most importantly, something called a pay-go system, pay-as-you-go system has been implemented. And it has worked in mostly in East Africa, like Kenya and other countries as well, Uganda. But also it has its own shortfalls because of some implementation challenges that it encountered. So in Ethiopia, we don't have a very large-scale pay-as-you-go model yet. People usually borrow from microfinance institutions and purchase the equipment and then pay those microfinancing institutions. But we're in the process of, trying to implement pay-as-you-go models, because we want to allow companies to be able to do this financing, but in a much more regulated atmosphere. I think some of the challenges of pay-as-you-go model, as you rightfully said, was price gouging, the area not being very much regulated. People, after they pay for the equipment, they were still paying. So there have been complaints, but we're taking all that lessons learned and implementing it in a way that protects the consumer and also provides much needed financing from the manufacturers or the distributors of the products.
In a way, this story is as old as mankind. If you borrow money, you end up paying more to buy something than you would otherwise. The problem, of course, is that for many people, they simply cannot afford, in your country and in my country, our country, people cannot afford to buy a solar panel straight off.
Yes, that is true. That's where we come in. This is a highly subsidized sector. We provide incentives, for example, for companies that do local manufacturing, they get incentives. If they are doing deep rural implementation of some of these systems, they get incentives. If they do productive use, for example, if they sell these solar panels for businesses to run shops or micro enterprises, then they get additional incentives. So it's a heavily subsidized sector because of the affordability, but it's much better than the alternative, which is burning kerosene lamps, which is extremely dangerous and hazardous to the health of the community, and also very, very expensive given the prices that we see in the oil industry now specifically. So there are challenges in deploying renewable energy because, like I said, there was a cost aspect of it early on, which the cost of solar panels come down significantly now. But also it has to be structured in a way that it's sustainable. And also it gets buy-in from the community, it's transparent, so that both on the developer or distributor side as well as on the consumer side, there's transparency. And once the public accepts it and the government gets out, right, it becomes a private to private or business to business dealing. And that's where we want to get to ultimately. But, as it is with every technology at first, that support, incentive, subsidy is much needed to make sure that we get to proper scale and make it sustainable.
The other option, of course, is to have communities getting together to buy solar panels. They'll use those solar panels probably to charge cell phones first. That would then spread any risk that there is of a debt trap.
Yeah, that's true. That actually we have something called mini-grid programs. So for communities that are actually, settled very closely, we're developing something called mini-grid. So it's basically a small grid of maybe anywhere from 100 households to 2,000 households or 4,000 households, depends on the size. And then that community development or mini-grid actually provides significant amount of value, because it's not just powering light bulbs. Now they can run businesses. We actually have a program called DREAM, Distributed Renewable Energy Agricultural Modalities, where we're using solar to do large-scale irrigation, like 200, 300 hectares. And then we also leverage the income from that to subsidize the community. So, the community gets not only electricity, but also water, excess water that can be used for drinking and providing, water for their livestock and whatnot. So we're looking at different models of off-grid implementation. But there are people that live, very, very far away from the grid and are settled very sporadically. And that's where this individual solar systems on the roof comes in. And that's a little bit challenging, a little bit more costly. But at the end of the day, it's better than the solution, that conventional solution of using dirty kerosene, which has significant health ramifications and environmental ramifications.